Hi, welcome to Ammosmith.com, and today I'm going to introduce you to neck turning. And you're going to need some supplies for this, but I want to tell you why you want to neck turn. This applies to precision rifle ammunition and also to cartridge conversions of certain types. When you're necking down a cartridge or shortening a cartridge, say a 30-06 to 308 or 30-06 to 243, especially when you're necking it down or really shortening the case wall where you're cutting it down to is a lot thicker, and it may chamber when it comes out of the reloading press just without a bullet seated into it, but it will not chamber when you have a bullet seated in the case because the neck is too thick. And also, if your precision rifle ammunition, if your cases are thicker on one side than on the other, it can cause run out problems. So here's what you need. You need a neck turning tool. In this case, I'm using the K&M Services neck turning tool assembly. You're going to need their expander in. I modified this one by putting a Lee set collar on there. It helps me to keep things very, very uniform. Also, we're going to use a drill as well as using the hand turning setup they got. So if you have the Lee shell holder for their trim setup, you're going to want to use that. For me, it's faster than using this guy. This thing works nice. However, I think this one is a lot faster. And I'm going to show you both what the case looks like trimmed by hand and by the drill. I like using the drill. One, it's faster, and two, it cuts a much neater neck. So I want to show you what and where and how to use this thing correctly, because if you cut too much, the neck is going to be too thin and you're going to end up splitting your case, or you're not going to have enough tension on the bullet itself to really hold it in there. So let's get started. Okay, what I have before you are two cases. The one on the left has been neck turned, the one on the right has not. Now when you neck turn, you only want to take off just the amount of material you need to take off and nothing more, and it's only a one-time operation. You only need to do this once, and once you're done doing that, never do it again. And the next rule of thumb for this, keep these cases separated from everything else. If you're going to make a batch of them, make a batch of either 20 or 50, whatever you need to do, but make sure they're from the same lot. Say you buy a box of Winchester new unfired brass, or you have a bunch of brass you've already weight sorted, and what you want to do is cut them all so that they're always the same. The bullet has the same amount of tension, and you know that the neck wall thickness on this is even throughout the entire lot. Now, when you do cut these, you only want to cut from the top just to right above the shoulder. And the reason why is this will stretch out and be trimmed back down, or not trimmed but sized back down through the sizing operation. Most of these here that I have neck turned, I only shoot these out of my bolt action, and I only neck size these. So these cases are going to last a long time. I have some of these have fired over 30 times and they're still going strong. Now what we need to do is determine whether or not you need to turn a case at all. Some you don't have to. Some cases out there like Lapua, some of the Nosler custom competition, you don't have to, but you pay a pretty penny for it. All this stuff I picked up off the range, and they all shoot extremely well, and I like to make my cases to my specifications. So let's get started on how to measure whether or not you need to turn them or not. Okay, we're going to use dial calipers and a Sharpie. And the first thing I do when I see a case that may or may not need it is my first indicator is on my runout gauge, but if you don't have a runout gauge, just use your calipers here and you just want to make a mark right there in the case. That way you know that you have a reference point. And you're only going to use the very tip of your calipers where it narrows, so you get a good accurate measurement. Just read the dial indicator. Don't put a lot of pressure on it, but just to where the number is not fluctuating. Memorize that number, and really you don't have to measure it from here. It's really all you're reading is from here. We're looking at 1/1000th of an inch. So then you go to the exact opposite side of the case and you measure it. There's a little bit of a difference, not much, but there's enough to where you want to turn this case. Now on some of these cases, like this is Winchester Commercial, they're really nice and they're extremely well made and high tolerance, but if you're truing up military cases, you're going to find that the weight variations in them can be extreme. But Lake City is really good, but they're really thick. So you want to make sure that your bullet pull on each one is exactly the same. So now that we know we have to neck turn this guy, let's go ahead and get him set up to be neck turned. Now what K&M sells is this thing here. It's called an expandrion. If you have a fully resized or a neck size case, getting this thing on here is a real pain. Okay, so what this does is it expands it out slightly, just enough to where this will fit on there, and you don't need to use any lubricant. Once you have the expandrion set up in here, what you want to do is be careful running this up. Sometimes it won't line up right, and the little expandrion wants to hit like this, and if you try to force it on there, it's going to crush the neck in. So you want to make sure it's on there right and gets it in the way it's supposed to be. And it doesn't require any lubrication either, which is nice. We're going to do a couple of these because there's a way of setting this up to where you only want to cut just enough to make it uniform. And that's a gradual process. So I'm going to set up 4 cases, and then we're going to go through this. And I want to talk to you more about cartridge conversions that we've been doing, because sometimes having a thicker case has great advantages over a factory made case, and I'll tell you why in a second.